We're back and it's time for dessert. We've taken a traditional pumpkin pie and we've added our own little twist for a turtle pumpkin pie.
Now you can make your own pastry that's your favorite recipe from scratch if you want to, but for convenience we're just going to use one of the refrigerated pie crusts. They work really well. We just want to unroll the crust onto a counter, and I'm going to roll it slightly just to smooth it out. Then to move a crust, what I like to do is actually just lay the crust right onto the rolling pin. That way it's easy to lift it up and you can transfer it right to your pie plate and position it exactly like you want it. Now when you're positioning the crust into the pie plate, you want to be careful not to stretch it because that would actually cause the crust to shrink as it bakes. So I just lift it up and press it into the edges of the pie plate. Then I'm going to fold the edges under to make that top edge a little bit thicker. That helps to keep it from over baking and getting too dark, and it will also make a prettier crimped edge when we're finished. Now, there are many different ways you can crimp, but I'm going to show you one that I think is probably one of the simplest ways. That's simply to just make a V with your thumb and forefinger. Use your knuckle and you can just press the dough right into that V. And as you kind of go around the edge of the crust, you want to just adhere it to the edge of the pie plate.
Now traditionally, pumpkin pie filling would be put right into the unbaked crust, but you always get that center portion that stays just a little bit doughy, and we've taken care of that. We're going to blind bake the crust, which is just a way of saying that we're going to bake it without any filling. That way we know that it'll be nice and crisp and golden brown before we add any pumpkin to it.
This is really easy to do. You're just going to take a sheet of foil and just form that into the bottom of the pie crust. And then you can use pie weights that you purchase, or it works great to just use some dried beans or even a little bit of rice. We'll just put that into the crust. That weights it down and helps to keep it from shrinking during baking.
That's right. And you don't have any of the little bubbles that form in the bottom crust too, which is always a problem.
That's right.
Now keep in mind, those beans have to be dedicated for pie baking only. They really won't work for other recipes. Just keep them in the cupboard anytime you make pies.
Right. So this is going to go into the oven for just about 10 minutes until it's partially baked. When the crust is partially baked, then you just simply want to lift the foil and the beans out of the pie shell. It goes back into the oven to bake until it's golden brown, and that'll just take a couple of minutes. The pie crust is ready to fill, and since we're making a turtle pie, we want to have caramel, chocolate, and pecans. So the bottom layer is going to be some melted caramels. We melted those in the microwave with a little bit of cream. I'm just going to spread this over the bottom of the crust. If you let that set for about 5 minutes, then your pumpkin filling won't mix in with it.
Not a bad way to start a pie off. Now for the filling, we're starting with the traditional ingredients. I've got a couple eggs that I've beaten, and I'm going to add some pure pumpkin. Be sure that the can does say pure and not pie filling, which already has some sweetener and spices added. Now to sweeten the pie, instead of using white sugar, which is very traditional, I'm going to use brown sugar. That adds a nice caramel flavor to the pie.
Really nice touch.
A little bit of salt and some pumpkin pie spice. There we go. And part of what gives this pie a really luxurious mouthfeel is whipping cream. 1.5 cups of heavy whipping cream. And I'll just blend this together until it's evenly mixed. Okay, the filling is nice and smooth. I'll go ahead and pour it into the crust. This is a really full pie, so you might want to do this closer to the oven at home.
Good idea. Now sometimes when you're baking your pie, the outer edges tend to get a little bit too brown, especially if it's a 2-crust pie or one like this where we pre-bake the crust. So what we're going to do is show you how to make a shield. You just take a sheet of foil, fold it in quarters, and then with your scissors you can cut the center portion out. When I unfold this, then I'm going to have this nice little rounded opening. And I can actually just lay that right over the top of the pie, and if it's starting to get too brown, that will shield the edges, keep them from getting too dark during the baking process. So I'm just going to set this aside, and if I need it during baking, I'll add it on. You can also purchase some silicone pie shields in the gadget aisle at Dierbergs. They work really nicely too, and they'll adapt to any size pie that you want. So I'm going to put this into the oven and let it cook until the filling is set.
We want to show you how we transform this into a turtle pumpkin pie. I have a pie that we've already baked, and I let it cool completely. That's really important before you add the next step, my pecans. For these, I just cook them in a skillet with sugar. Once that sugar melts, it coats the pecans, and as they dry, it makes a nice sugary finish to these. I'll just put them in a little border all the way around the edge.
The final step for this pie is the chocolate. So I have some milk chocolate chips that I melted with a little bit of cream. I put that in the microwave and I'll just stir those together, and let's add that final drizzle. And we'll just put that right over the edge like this. Oh, it looks so good. Now, you know, for Thanksgiving, I'm a real traditionalist. I like just the very simple, plain pumpkin pie. But when you get into the holiday season, I love having one that's all dressed up like this.
That's right. And while it is non-traditional, that combination of caramel, pumpkin, and chocolate just really works. It's amazing.
It's very good. Now, for more Christmas tradition, we're going to make some gingerbread cookies next.
That's right. In the magazine, we have a gingerbread tutorial. We have got some great recipes and some easy tips for making sure that your gingerbread cookies are picture perfect every time.
The cookies that are on the back of our Everybody Cooks magazine were made by Mary Sheets, also known as the Gingerbread Lady. Mary is a kitchen assistant at our Bogey Hill School of Cooking. Mary, I love your little people. They are just absolutely adorable.
Thank you, Barb.
Well, we're so excited to have you show us some decorating tips. So go ahead and start decorating. We're just going to kind of peek in over your shoulders.
Okay.
You're doing this. And we're using royal frosting. So that recipe is in the magazine also.
But I like that you gave us some tips. You said the consistency is really important for the icing.
Yes, it is. If you thin it out, and as you can see with this consistency, it's very thin.
Mm-hmm.
And that helps when you are decorating. It doesn't break off, and it also does not leave the little points.
No Hershey Kisses on your gingerbread,
No.
guys, right? Now, after you have decorated these cookies, do you find it's hard to eat them? Or do you like to just keep them out for display?
I keep them out for display.
Yeah,
I don't
I
eat
think
them.
so too. They're just too cute. Mary, we are so glad to have you here. Mary actually has done a gingerbread village that she has on display at the Bogey Hills Cooking School. Every year she does a creative village, so you can stop by, take a peek at what she's done for the cooking school. It's just great, and thank you so much for doing that. We're glad you tuned in tonight. Thanks a lot for joining us. Pick up a magazine and enjoy your holiday cooking. From all of us at Dierbergs, we wish you a happy holiday season.
Good night.